Hello, so this is a second video in Nimbly demo series where we'll explain how dependencies in a Nimbly container get resolved. So as you've seen in the previous example, we have two containers, controllers and services, and they all have some local services, which is username service or auth controller, and then we can add access to controller services so that they can access the services. This is a bit confusing, but yeah. And then in auth controller, what will get injected here is actually under that key that we provided, all the services from the services container will be injected here, and then auth controller will have access to them. That's a simple example. A bit more complex example is when we have a circular dependency. That is hard to solve, but we've made it so that we support that. Even though it's not advisable to have those, we did solve them. So the problem here is service 1 depends on service 2, right? And then service 2 depends on service 1. So the problem is like which one to create first and then which one to create second. So if we create service 1 first, service 2 will be undefined, and vice versa. So the way this is solved, and okay, if I run this, npm run deps, you'll see that this logs everything is correct. So dependencies are resolved. You'll see some proxy field here, and that's what we've done basically. So in the constructor, service 2 does not exist yet if the service 1 is created first. So that's a problem, and usually this would just return undefined. But instead of returning undefined, this returns something like this, proxy null. This object is not just an ordinary object. It is using the proxy API from JavaScript, and basically it returns an object so that this service 2 is actually a reference to something, to that object. And then once service 2 is created, this gets filled in with its reference, basically with the object of, with the instance of that class. And now anything that you access here from service 2 is actually proxied to that service. So that's how they get undefined. That's the key. Instead of returning undefined and then this points to nothing, we return something so that this points to it, and that's how and then afterwards we can just use that reference and fill it in. That's how dependencies get resolved. So yeah, that's the general idea. And maybe something worth exploring is if we have a remote proxy dependency. So the example of this can be seen here, where we have the auth controller client proxy, which looks like exactly the same actually as the server code, but it's actually a client code. And the way that is handled is instead of like here adding local services, which just call the functions in this class, we add a remote service with a host pointing to this, and then the specification basically of that service is this. So this is an example of having a remote proxy for this auth controller for the existing API that we've shown in here, which is example explorer. Okay, I'm not running it, sorry. Yeah, but this can also be used for some random third-party APIs or whatnot. It's a nice way to convert the access or call it whatnot of, instead of sending just HTTP requests, this is a nice spec for creating that proxy for HTTP requests and converting them to service-like things. So this auth controller is a service, and it has methods and it has parameters, and then those get mapped to HTTP requests. So it's a more natural way to send HTTP requests because it looks like you're just calling a function in your native language, which is JavaScript, right, or TypeScript in this case. So yeah, that's all about dependencies. Again, in future this might be renamed to modules, and it will have some additional features to it. But yeah, thanks for watching. See you in the next one, where we will explore the plugins system.